Hey there, welcome to the virtual table. We are going to play a game that has been sitting on my shelf of shame for well over a year, Skies Above Britain. I absolutely love Skies Above the Reich. One of my games of the year. I think if you watched one of my playthroughs of it, Storm Above the Reich was basically just Skies Above the Reich with some things renamed. Um, so I was a bit disappointed, only because it was just more of the same. And if Storm had come out first, that would be my game of the year. Um, so Storm of the Reich, I don't fault it for what it is. It's just that it did disappoint me because I was hoping that once I had a combined campaign that it would just add all this gloriousness. Skies Above Britain is an extremely different game. In fact, one of the reasons this has been on my shelf of shame for so long is the rules on this are intense, and the rulebook is not my favorite. Like the rulebook for Skies Over the Reich was so good. The rulebook for this, not so much. And I'm not saying that this one stunk because there's really awful rulebooks out there in the board gaming world. This falls in the middle. Like it's not horrible, but it stunk compared to Skies Above the Reich. Like if you're talking relativity wise, it wasn't as good. And one of the reasons I'll tell you it wasn't as good is so this is the rule book right here. If I go to page one, they do a nice job of at least giving you some terminology, and then it just jumps into dogfight cycle, and then it jumps into different sequences, and it's like what, what, and if you look at the sequence of play, raid vector is first, and look at this, raid vector is on page 41, and and there's no section anywhere that just explains how to put all this together. And it was a real missed opportunity. Now I understand what they tried to do. The dogfight cycle is the first scenario in the situation manual. So if you look at the situation manual, you got your introduction, and then the dogfight scenarios are first. So if you just read this section, you can jump in, and then they got you know, a nice, like this is actually the rules here. So like these are the dry rules, and then this is actually the more helpful with pictures rules, right? And then you get further enough, and then you got your first scenario. You theoretically can play this scenario after reading only this section. I get it. I get that that's what they're trying to do, but this scenario is the most boring scenario ever. It is a tutorial scenario. They make it sound like this game comes with 10 scenarios. No, it does not. It comes with a tutorial. Like this one pager could have easily just been an example in a rule book. Um, and I don't want to, be Debbie Downer too much. This looks like a great game. I'm not, you know, but it's just that there's just some things that were just like, oh my gosh, like I was really reacting, and and when it came to pulling this game out and saying, okay, do I want to cover this game or even just play it, I would always just like, you know, start falling asleep, because I'm reading a bunch of like in the weeds details when I still need to get what's the big picture? How does this thing work? Big picture wise, when does the dogfight even start? And obviously I know it's when you're engaged with another fighter. Like common sense, is part of the picture here, but still, like why are we getting into all the details of a dogfight when I still don't understand this, the sequence of play? What's a raid vector? What does that even mean? And I know from Storm Above the Reich they added vectoring, and so I sort of get it. He likes that terminology, vectoring. And then another thing that I really think was a poor choice is there's attitude and altitude. And I know those are two completely different English words. They coexist. Um, but when you're, I don't know. I guess I'm just getting old, and I need to go into my senior citizen home and just go to sleep all the time. I don't understand it, but attitude and altitude look the same when you're trying to quickly read a rule book. And it throws my mind way off because this game has both attitude and altitude. And I mean, maybe some of you know what attitude is in terms of piloting. I personally don't. Attitude was such a weird word to choose. Um, I would have picked something else for sure. Now, in case you're wondering, what is attitude in this game? And like right here, you can see the word altitude. Attitude, is it even on here? Attitude is whether or not you're head on, being tailed, or tailing. Those are the three attitudes. So in dogfighting, there's attitudes of, it's basically your orientation relative to the fighter you're engaged with. They call that attitude. So, anyways, I'm belaboring something way too much. Um, so just understand there's some elements. And another thing is dogfight cycles, as you can see, all roads lead to dogfights, right? Like, so you follow these sequences, and then there's these arrows that come over because this is a very convoluted flowchart. And I actually appreciate this. I mean, it was very quick and easy for me to understand that, yeah, at every step along the way, you might end up in a dogfight. And so, like, some people say this is visually unappealing. I think it makes total sense. But the part for me is the whole documentation. And, you know, you need to at least start off, like, this introduction does not introduce enough. And then what I found much later is, like I said, these scenarios when we get to the campaign here. So, like, you get to the bomber scenarios, and look, there's rules in the scenarios section. The rules belong in the rulebook. So, again, I really was annoyed that they put rules in the scenario section. And then I'm going to keep going, and eventually we should get to, and again, intercept scenarios. Rules. And to be fair, these rules are also in the rulebook, but I still didn't appreciate it. Um, the scenario book has more pictures, so like these pictures are awesome, and it really is. So we're on scenario 11 now. It's still tutorial. All this is tutorial, and then eventually you get to, yes, this is more tutorial campaigns, right? And then there's rules here that do not exist in the rulebook. And so again, annoyed. But as I said before, there's still a great game to be had here. I just boy oh man, the entry to get into this game so hard. And and I know I'm reviewing it I guess as I go here, but I just found that the I just want to sit down and experience this game and understand what it means. It was really hard. Okay, I'm shutting up because I know I already made my point, and let's just dive in. So we are going to play a campaign, and yeah, I did do a dogfight cycle. I didn't do all 11 of the scenarios. I get tired and bored. I want to play and see how the whole thing fits together because those other scenarios are not how I will ever play this game. Those are just tutorials teaching you pieces. I give them credit. The pieces do help you to put together the whole, but there is no section in here that explains the whole, and that's the part that's hard. All right. So with that said, the best way I can explain to you the whole is this part here. And when you open your game, you're going to have all these different pieces. You're not going to have these cards. These cards they're cool, but they don't come with the game, at least not that I'm aware of. And you will have all these different boards that are in blue. You will not have this chalkboard. You will not have this. This is supposed to just be an empty space on your table. Obviously, the coolness of using Tabletop Simulator is you get this cool background. Each of these bags are components in the game, and when you open your game, you're going to have a whole bunch of components like this one, that you have to store in a box or whatever. And of course, again, the player aid, or I'm sorry, the Tabletop Simulator, just really awesome in that regard. Okay, so at a high level, what's going to happen is you have bombers that are flying in to bomb England, of course. This is the Battle of Britain. And so Germany is sending bombers, and what they are doing is they're coming in from the coast. So they're going to enter the board from this side, and they're going to, move towards inland Germany. So they're going to come in on the coast and then keep going, right, until a tile that's here, and these tiles look like this, right? So there's going to be a tile here, and then we're going to reveal one, and there's symbols on the tile that's going to tell you, you know, what's going to happen. And eventually, they're going to drop their bombs. And when they drop their bombs, they're then going to, and the raid marker is this doohickey. So you have this thing that moves as it goes further inland, right? And then let's say they drop their bombs here. Well, they're in the middle of England, so then they go to here because they're turning, and then they're going to start returning back home along this. And so that's how the bombers will follow a path. And then we will have a chance to fly up and intercept them along here, and we do that with our formation marker, which is this one. So we can, fly along, and if they're here, we're here. We're near them, but we're not quite there. And then this means that we're basically on top of each other, and it's still a big sky. So we still have to be able to identify, contact, intercept, all those things. So and then eventually, when they start returning home, we can still try to engage them as they're leaving. And this is a victory point game, and so you're gonna want to score points. Obviously, there's a minimum number of points in a campaign in order to not have a disaster and lose the game. You do need to have at least one excellent victory or two, I think, successful victories. I think if I'm using the right terminology. And that's going to be in the scenario book. So when we get into the campaign, right here, the VP chart. So you can see there's an excellent victory of 45. The campaign is played over multiple chapters. So if one of your chapters has an excellent, you're going to get a win. So complete the campaign without a disaster outcome and with at least one excellent, or two success outcomes is equivalent to one excellent. So if you get two of these success outcomes, that's the same as getting one excellent. And so that's how you quote unquote win. I mean, you can have failures and disasters. That is possible. Well, you don't want a disaster. You can fail. That's okay, but you at least need to have an excellent and two successes eventually before the thing ends. Okay, so all right. So like I said, the planes are coming in. Once they drop their bombs, they turn, and then they go home. All right. So we fly up, and we're vectoring towards them, and we have to contact them. So this is the contact table. So this means, okay, we found them, and then it's going to determine where we're going to be. So you see these terms, tail low, flank low. So if this represents the bomber formation, we're either going to be tail, trailing, port, nose, or starboard. And then, of course, we can be high or low. And they have these little markers to indicate altitude, not attitude. And a lot of that is similar to the way Skies Above the Reich worked. So then once you're near the formation and you have contact, you still have to then intercept the formation. And so if you're following along your little chart here, this raid vector sequence is the whole coming in to bomb and then leave part. And then the contact is here. And then once you contact them, you move to interception sequence. So from here you start giving orders, and then you either intercept the fighter escorts, the bombers themselves, or we're repositioning, which they call cruise. And the thing with contact to understand is once you contact them, they know you're there too. And now whether or not all of them know, some of them do, and whether or not those escorts, find you and intercept you, that's all part of the why you see the dogfights over here. So you go through this intercept phase. So you have to contact them and then intercept them before you can even get to the point where you're actually fighting something. And then entropy is where you actually do the battle. So there are um, fighter versus fighter battles, which is the dogfight cycle. I think this makes total sense to anybody. Most people know what a dogfight is. The bomber formation, it's misleading, but the bomber cycle is us attacking the bombers. It's not them actually dropping the bombs. So to me, this is engaging the bombers. This is not them actually bombing. And the part where they actually do the bombing is up here in the raid vector sequence. So I thought it was a little misleading, but it you get over it quick. Um, and then chase is okay. We went through and we um, did our thing. As the chaos of the fighting happens, some of your fighters are going to lose contact. They're going to go out of contact, and that's what this lost contact section is. And when that happens, by the way, the game board has a lost contact section as well, but this is much nicer. Reserving a part of your actual table, I highly recommend to do what they did here. This is super nice. Um, Anyways, when you lose contact, you can then try to reform. Like we'll get into like what a squadron is, and and then you have to chase, which means you're going to try to catch back up to the bombers, right? So you lost contact with them. Now you're going to try to re-engage, recontact. That's what the chase is. And then eventually your patrol is going to be over. You're going to either run out of fuel, you're going to be out of ammo, or other reasons, right? You got damaged. Um, so as this bomber group is coming in and then eventually going home, eventually everybody returns to base and you don't need to keep moving this thing anymore. So, but you have opportunities to engage those bombers as they're coming in and as they're leaving. Now, you get more victory points if you can engage them as they're coming in before they drop the bombs. Um, there's more opportunity for victory points. Let's put it that way. You can still score victory points as they're leaving. It's just not as much. The opportunities are lower. Um, and so, in a nutshell, that is it. Now you're gonna have like a squadron of fighters, and you can see there's a whole bunch here. The tabletop simulator named all these fighters. Uh, in the game that you have, the copy, the physical copy, they're basically A, B, C. They're these letters. Now, tabletop simulator automatically put, these guys here. This is all configurable by you. You don't have to follow what they did. Um, but yes, you have pilot A, and you have pilot B, and you have pilot C, etc. And they do have a spot for you to put, green versus regular versus veteran. So again, I don't know which ones are which yet, and we get to configure that. So I don't want to mislead you. Um, so it's just A, B, and C. And then they give you a blank sheet of paper, and you can get creative like this guy did. Now, what he did was, this is A, that's B, that's C, and so that's all their last names, right? So he came up with a way to come up with a last name for every one of these letters. Um, and the cool thing about Tabletop Simulator is you can click on it and type whatever you want. All right, so that's good. Every pilot is either going to be a regular, green, or a veteran, um, or possibly even an ace. Um, and then they're either going to be in green squadron, blue squadron, red, or yellow, or resting, which is nothing. These are the chapters. So you can see there's 4 chapters in a campaign, and so each chapter you're going to go out on patrol and do whatever, various things, and you have an opportunity to score victory points with each one. So you gain experience points here, and then eventually you're going to your green pilots become regulars, and regulars become veterans, etc. So there's formulas for everything, and I won't get into all the gory details yet, but that's the game in a nutshell. So you're going to go up, do multiple chapters, which are, so you can see here, the campaign is, there's chapters and patrols. there's at least one chapter, and a chapter consists of 6 or 8 patrols. Each patrol begins with a raid vector sequence. Okay, so and then between patrols, you're going to do some rest, and you got to manage your roster, and so forth. And then your campaign length, you have to choose the number of chapters you'd like to play, and then here you complete the campaign without a disaster. And this is based on how long the chapter is. If it's 6 patrols, these are your scores. If it's 8, it's that. And so this is for each chapter. And now, what's the difference between chapter 1 and chapter 4? Well, that's where this scenario thing is pretty cool. So the thing that changes is the vectors. So here in chapter 1, the Germans are going to be bombing early. And I'll explain why that's happening, but these vectors are very weighted towards the shore. So they're going to come, get to England, and then they're going to be bombing right away. And then as you progress to chapter 2, you can see the stack is taller in the middle of Britain. And then we get to chapter 3, then you can see it's tall everywhere. And then chapter 4, it's weighted deep into Britain. So they're not gonna. They're very unlikely to drop their bombs early. The chances of them dropping are much higher later. So so that's what's pretty cool is they simulate like how deep do the Germans go with these little vector tokens, and we'll get into how that works, but yeah, these vector tokens here are going to dictate when they drop bombs versus when they don't, and they're going to be weighted. You might have a stack of 6 here in the front versus in the back. All right, so that's it. That's it for overview. One of the first things you have to decide for your campaign, and it's a decision that they really don't do a lot of explaining. You have to choose, are you going to be Spitfires or Hurricanes? And you don't get to change that. And obviously it's set up with Spitfire here, and we're going to go ahead and just do Spitfires. But you could also play as Hurricanes, and the difference mechanically is when you go, well, first of all, these are all your decks of cards. For the bomber deck, there's a light and a medium. So the game starts with a light. So you got to come up here and grab the medium bomber deck and then just have it ready. And then for the Hurricanes and Spitfires, it's head-on and tailing and tailed. So there's head-on and tailing Spitfire deck, and then there's tailed Hurricane deck. So if you're playing with the Hurricane deck, you got to pull those out, and then you got to pull that out. So you have to use a completely different set of cards for representing the type of plane. So if we're doing a Spitfire one, you just stick with what's there. If you want to use the Hurricanes, grab these two and replace these. Now that'll be for the whole game. Now the bomber one though, you were going to be swapping out medium versus light all the time. So it's a little annoying there. I wish they would have had an extra spot so you could have both sets of bombers down here, but they don't. One of the cool features that I wish other tabletop simulator games do, like first of all, this guy was brilliant. So when I draw this card, I can hit F to flip it and then drop it here, and it automatically orients it the way I need to see it. And we'll get into all the symbology and stuff, but then whenever I'm done, I can flip it back and then drop it back into this deck, and look at that. It automatically shuffles. And as soon as I draw, it shuffled the deck. So it's just basically it's an auto shuffle feature, which, man, what a great feature that is. I got to figure out how to do that. Modify some of the tabletop simulators I'm using. Okay, so let's get into. We chose Spitfire for lack of any insight on that. I think if I remember correctly, the Spitfire was better at dogfighting, and the Hurricane was slightly, I think, better at taking down a bomber. I also think technology-wise, the Hurricane came first, if I remember. But yeah, I don't know much else. So we're going to be doing Chapter 1, and there's a couple of things here. First, it gives you some nice background. Next, The raid vector markers for each patrol, there's 6 of them, have to be set up like so. And there we go. That's much. My eyes can't read these tiny things. So basically, we have to set up our, and then you see the numbers here. So there's 2 markers here, 4, and then 2211. Okay, and then we're going to roll a die to determine where our formation is, because we're going to basically take off, right? So at the start of every patrol, we're going to have this vector formation every time. For all of Chapter 1, this is always going to be weighted this way. So the highest chance of them dropping bombs is right here with the 4. Um, and we're always going to have our formation either a deep, middle, or coast. So we're either really far away or we're really close. Okay, and then at the start of the campaign, though, we're going to roll a die for this. And this is our pilots. So we're always going to have 20 pilots. But are we going to have 18 regular and 1 veteran, or 12 regular and 3 veteran and an ace? So you see what I mean? So if we start the game with an ace, you actually start with 5 green. So it is interesting. They balance it out a bit, where you have less green pilots, but no ace. Um, but less veterans as well. So it's pretty interesting. And then these things here, they trigger, and these are charts we're going to have to look at as we're playing. So at the very start of the campaign, we got to get our pilot assignment figured out. So I'm going to leave that up, and then let's find our dice, which I thought was, yep, here. And is it, yep, I can hit, okay, the R button rolls. So we're going to hit R, and that's a 10. It doesn't look very exciting, does it? But that is a roll. Okay, so we rolled a 10. And if you look at the 10, we got this assignment here, which I think is a pretty cool one. So we have 5 greens. And where are these tokens? There's regular. Oh, I know what's going on. I think they use the state thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is the 5th one. Now we have to decide which pilots are green versus which are regular, and then we have 3 veterans. So they gave us 1, 2, and there's a 3rd one. And then we should have 18 regular. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12. Oh, I'm sorry, 12 regular. So 12 regular, 3 veterans, 1 ace. We need an ace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. What am I missing here? That's 17, that's 20. Oh, there's 1 ace skill. So one of these veterans is an ace. I don't think there is an actual ace token. Let's check. What are these? Yeah, there it is, ace. Because there's 20 total pilots. So 12 and 5 is 17, 18, 19, 20. So it says ace skill. So one of the veterans is an ace. And actually that's ace vision. Yeah, those are actually ace skills. Yeah, okay. So we gotta grab. I have to confess, the ace skills I skimmed over because I wasn't expecting to start the game with one. So this is called ace vision, right? It's a skill, and then that shows that you used it. So we're gonna have to pick which skill we want to start the game with. And just so you know, here's your pilots, right? So here you got veterans that use veteran privilege, and then veterans can become aces. So well, here we go. Regular pilots are a default. Um, a regular pilot's flown 5 patrols becomes a veteran. And then a pilot earns an A skill when they garner 5 kills. So one of the pilots, we're gonna have to pick which one. He's going to gain an A skill, and when you earn an A skill, we're gonna select it from the menu, and then give it to that pilot. So we have to decide, A through E here, which skill we want them to have. So one of these is cancel an icon result, which this is if you remember how I like to play in the past, this is one I usually choose because it lets me cancel a hit, and that keeps your ace guy alive longer, right? Um, the slick is the slip maneuver thing. This is basically very handy when you're being tailed by German fighters. So it helps you with dogfighting. And then the innovator is all kinds of craziness. Our squadrons are usually only 3 planes. With innovator, you now can use 4. That changes the way the game plays big time. And then vision. Sorry for the noise. Somebody was making noise outside. Um, so each of these are really good. Hence the reason they're ace skills. I would say this one is extremely situational, but when you can use it, it's super advantageous. The innovator lets you have 4 planes in a squadron instead of 3. In fact, it completely flips this. So right now you can see so you can flip this, and I can go to state 2, and the assets are loading. And then see how it shows, like, now you have a squadron that has 4 planes in it, but there's only 3 squadrons instead of 4. Um, so that is all part of the innovator skill, and that really changes the way the game plays, and we're not going to mess with that too much. Also, I'm realizing that by doing what I did, I covered everything up. Boy, did I make a mess. So I'm just going to move all these up here so they're easy to pick up. Bring this back. Lock that in. Pick everything else up. There we go. All right. Everything's back to where I think it was supposed to be. Okay, so yeah, we have to pick one of these. Getting back to the vision. Um, so when there's a dogfight, either the Germans have advantage on you or we have advantage on them, and that does make a big difference. So this could be really good to help you get more kills. And so if you gain an ace skill, you get more ace skills by getting kills. So I can see somebody wanting to take vision first, and not necessarily playing defensively, because they want to get more kills, and this is the way to do it quicker. And then chase automatically succeeds. Chase checks are annoying. So this one can let you spend a fuel when you automatically succeed. So I can see why that's helpful as well. So you get intercepted, you fall out of contact, and then you need to catch back up to the bomber formation, and you have to do a chase check. Well, these guys automatically succeed, so the ace always catches back up. So that can be really good as well. All right, so which one are we doing? I like Lucky Charm. It is always my favorite because a dead ace is no good to me. So let's take this thing, and I don't remember which state it is. That's slick. There we go, luck. So this luck token is just going to belong to one of these veterans. I'll just put it here. So, and that veteran will be able to use that whenever they are on a mission. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to change the names. We're just going to go with the names here. And then, as people die and we replace them, we can use some, viewer names if there's anybody watching or whatever. So there you go. Step 1, complete. We chose Spitfire. Step 2, we have our pilot assignments. Oh, I got to decide which ones, right? So, I mean, we could be diplomatic and try to say, okay, this guy's a veteran, this guy's not. I'm just going to do it the way an engineer does things, and that is the first five are green and everybody else. So we're just gonna do it just like that. um, so so yeah, A through E are green, and then F, G, and H are veterans, and then everybody else is regular. So we're gonna just start the game like that. I'm not gonna get now whether or not they're yellow or whatever. We can change that every time we go on a mission. So so don't ignore this for now. This is just here because they put it there. We can move these around. All right. So we got our names. I'm not gonna change the names. We have our skill level for each of them in place. And by the way, the regular pilots, or I'm sorry, the veteran pilots have skills as well. These are available to all veterans, but they only get to use one of them. So, but all of them are available. So once I choose to use this one as a veteran, all the other ones are no longer available to me, um, and that's for each veteran pilot, including the ace. So these you're going to see used a lot more, and getting to veteran status is a big deal because these skills are tremendously helpful. Not to say that the ace skills they're even better, but yes, the two combined makes it nice, and we're definitely going to have to utilize those to give us advantages in this game. Okay, that part is done. So now we go back to this, and we have to set up the vector, the inbound vector. So Germans are coming. The Germans are coming. The Germans are coming. So we are going to start with the inbound chits. The outbound ones go up here for when they're returning home. So they're not doing those ones yet. So what they're saying is it's 1 and 1. So we're going to grab 1 and 1. Then 2 and 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2. And then 4. And then 2. Just like that. So it may not look it, but you can see they're all set up and ready to go. And then we roll a die. So just going to come over here, hit R. I rolled a 12, which means we start our formation is going to start on the coast. And then this here says that we're burning 3 fuels. So our formation has these cubes, and we're going to use the smaller cubes. Oh, here's another thing. The Hurricane starts with more fuel. See that? So we start with 1 less fuel as a Spitfire. Okay, there's another example, right? So maybe if fuel's your thing, right, and you're annoyed with running out of fuel, you'll want to play as a Hurricane. Okay, but this says that we lose 3 fuel because we basically spent all this fuel catching up to them. Now, what does this represent? This represents that, so when we took off and we made our formation, are we deep in Britain and then we have to fly to get to the coast? Or are we already at the coast? And this is saying that we're already at the coast because I rolled a 12. So Squadron has been on patrol over the channel for some time. So we're actually patrolling over the channel, and so we burned 3 fuel to get there. That's what that represents. And actually the fuel should be up here. Okay. All right. So we did all that. We have like a certain amount of fuel before we're gonna have to return to base, and we'll deal with that later. Now we do have to. What is our squadron? And we have to figure that out now. And with that being said, let's go and review the intro. So the game has a formation with squadrons. The squadron is a formation of 12, right? So that's what we're representing here. This is a squadron. And then you can break a squadron up into a flight, which is multiple sections. And then a section is a group of fighters. I keep calling these squads, and I apologize. I keep calling them squads. but that's technically a section. So a section is 3 fighters. A section may have just 2, but it must begin patrol with 3. And and there's ways to form ad hoc sections and all kinds of stuff. So what you have to do in order to make a section, basically you're going to have 3 pilots in each section. That's what they are representing here, and that's why I was saying we got to get all the stuff off. So remember I said ABC, they're green pilots, and then so was D and E, and then I think we said yeah, F, G, and H were the veterans. So we can flip them over. F, G, where's H? They're your veterans. And then everybody else is regular. Now they have boxes here for when they get fatigued. They go into that box, which just means they need to rest. So we're going to have pilots that are definitely going to need rest. We have 20 of them. We can send 12 out, and as you can see, there's red, blue, green, and yellow. I know the designers will probably never watch this, but they missed an excellent opportunity to call this Gold Leader. I think any Star Wars fan would totally respect that, but they didn't, so that's okay. And then with each of these sections, and I keep calling them squads because it says Squadron, but with each of these sections, there's going to be a leader. And so one of the things that we can do, and we should do, is, for example, I'm going to do a veteran on 3 of them, because I have 3 veterans, and then I'm going to assign a green person to each one. Now, having a green person with a veteran can be bad, because some of the skills can't be done if there's a green. These are the wrong skills I'm thinking of. But one thing is that a veteran can cancel a green effect, which helps the green to stay alive. So that's one way to look at it. The other one is if you want to do a slip. So this is a case where there's a whole section of fighters being attacked in a dogfight, and let's say that there's Germans tailing them, right? You can do this maneuver called a slip, but you can't do it if you have a green in your group. So these guys are greenies, and I thought there was a way to represent green. I mean, you definitely have. I mean, you could do something like that, right? Cover it up, but then you lose the letter. Or we can just like drop it below. Yeah, let's do that. Now, there's other ways to represent this, right? Because we have it represented over here, right, with the green. This is really cool, by the way. I don't think this is actually on the sheet of paper. So we're going to represent it both ways because I don't want to forget. And then we're just going to take some regular pilots and fill in. And then over here, we're going to put in a regular as the leader. And oh, should I just make all regulars or add another green to this? If I put a green over here, I'm definitely leaving them a little high and dry, but that's okay. We'll do that. And yes, let's get one more green out to show. So basically, I'm following the same pattern. If I have a veteran, I'm putting him as a leader. And then on my right is always the regular, and on my left is a green. And in order to get the greens promoted, that is in your chapter book. And if we move, I would swear it was here. It is not. I know it's listed somewhere. Oh, I think it's listed here on the player aid. So green operates just like, and once a green has flown 4 patrols, it's no longer green. He becomes regular. And then they have to fly 5 more patrols to become a veteran. So a green has to go 9 patrols to eventually become a veteran. Obviously the regulars only have to do 5, and of course the veterans are already veterans. So in the course of 4 chapters, we're going to be able to easily at least get 4 patrols or 5 patrols in, right? Assuming they stay alive. And that also assumes they go on every mission, which they also we're going to eventually need to rest. So with all these chapters that you see, you're going to need them all if you really want to have progression with your pilots. And of course, anytime a pilot dies and is replaced, it's going to be green. So you're going to be restarting that timer every time. Okay, anything else I'm missing? Um, we have our assignments. We are up and we are flying, and then we're gonna have to start the game here, I believe. Um, there are things like, for example, with our squadrons, we do need to get out the Spitfires, and here you can see we have the leader. So there's your red leader, and then there's red 3 and red 2, and then green 3. The number 4, by the way, we're not using unless we flip this board. So that's why you see him off to the side. And so yeah, this is just empty the bag. These aren't random. They're not supposed to be random. There shouldn't be anything else. So yeah, you have to choose obviously whether you're doing a hurricane or not. There's no difference. Um, the picture is going to be different. Like, let me just grab one. As you can see, the hurricane is going to look slightly different, and then of course it'll say hurricane on it. But yes, these are our formations, and when we engage the bombers, we're going to pull from this board, and then they're going to move to this bigger board over here. So right now they're all represented in this. I guess there you go. So this is called the squadron tile. So I can't call this a squadron. This is a section. Okay, fair enough. I'm getting my terminologies right, and that's why they call it the squadron display, because all of these are in one squadron. Okay, I'm on board. Sorry for the misleading stuff there. Okay, and then you can see the board actually has a lot of those same skills listed. Um, the iconography and the player aids are top notch, whether it's through this or in person. The only thing that I think was difficult when I was contemplating playing this on my real table and just recording it there is there's so many player aids. Like, I feel like I'm constantly flipping through trying to find the right one. And I know you still have to do that here, but my gosh, it's so nice that they're up here, right? And you can just come up and look at these. And then they have some player aids over here as well. And you can see this is actually a repeat of what was up above. And then this looks like a repeat of what was above as well. But still, it's very nice. I do like this format. I also especially like that I can open a rule book and have it up to the side and still see on the left. And then the ability to search for keywords, like I had to look up tallying, so powerful. Versus when I'm sitting there with the rulebook in front of me, there is no search feature. So I love Tabletop Simulator. I know some folks don't like it, but it makes recording so much simpler. I make enough mistakes as it is. Okay, we are ready. We now move to this board here, and we're in the raid vector sequence. So what I can do is they give you these little arrows, so we start here. So we are now on step 1 of the raid vector sequence. So the how far into this am I? 49 minutes. I will start in the next video. So thanks for watching. As always, stay awesome.